What's up, everyone? It's your boy Norn Radd89 here, bringing you another Rad movie review. And for today, we are going to be kicking off our Leprechaun review series. We have St. Patrick's Day coming up this coming Thursday, so we are going to be breezing through all the Leprechaun franchise. I've seen almost all of them except for the two most recent ones that were made in like the last 10 years. I haven't seen those two, but we're going to kick this off with the very first one that was released in 1993. I was a youngin'. I was like 3 or 4 years old, so I didn't catch this film when it first came out. But once I started getting into horror and like venturing into experimenting and like trying other horror movies, discovering puppet masters and dolls and all that kind of stuff, I eventually found Leprechaun and went on to that franchise. So let's kick this off by starting with the very first film. So 1993, the early 90s to like the mid 90s before 96 is like the era of where kind of a lot of horror movies were going straight to DVD. It was kind of more of like television production type horror stuff and everything like that. A lot of people say this is kind of like the dark ages for horror films and stuff. But the Leprechaun film, I think this first film does still kind of hit hard. It was a really good blending of tone where it has a serious nature, kind of treats the Leprechaun almost like a creature feature flick. Warwick Davis is the actor who plays the Leprechaun, and he does such a fabulous job. He's just as iconic as like Robert Englund as Freddy. You can't really have Leprechaun, I don't think, without Warwick Davis, and he did such a fabulous job bringing this character to life on screen. We also have a very young Jennifer Aniston in this film as well. I can't remember, I believe this is maybe her first feature film and stuff like that. So she's very early, young age and all this stuff, and her dad buys like a house in the middle of nowhere, but unbeknownst to them, this is a house where the Leprechaun is trapped at because it was Dan O'Grady, I believe that's how you say his name, was a man who stole his pot of gold and ended up trapping the Leprechaun in this basement in a crate and then put a 4-leaf clover on top of the crate. So that prevents him from exiting and all that kind of stuff. So that's what's kind of really funny is these films, they have a lot of that kind of, you got to know what's going on, nature, rules, and all this kind of stuff about leprechauns and the history. There's a lot of that kind of stuff, but there's also some continuity errors when it comes to this franchise. But right now we're just talking about this first film, and definitely it's one of those films where I can rewatch it. It's not one of my favorites. Like the Leprechaun's not one of my favorite kind of slashers or anything like that, but this first film does have a really good early 90s feel. Even the look and like the way everybody's kind of dressed, like shout out to Jennifer Aniston, her shorts, clearly 90s style shorts. Like it's just hilarious, like the clothes, all that stuff, and it really has that good nostalgia vibe. And like I said, even though I don't return to this film very often, it's still a pretty solid watch. And like I said, I like the fact that they treat him like a creature feature flick. They don't really show you him at first. They kind of slowly show more and more of the Leprechaun, and he has some pretty cool wild powers. And it's like as he progresses and gets more gold and possesses more of the coins, he's more powerful. There's like, it's kind of wild, but then you add some more rules as the franchise goes on. But yeah, with this first film, I think it's just really iconic because introducing this character, and Warwick Davis really went for it as the Leprechaun character. So when you have someone in that role who just goes for it 100, it really does a better job in help assisting the movie and making it somewhat more watchable. Also, like I said, I have some really fond memories of this franchise because it was around the time me and my friend, it was my friend back in high school and middle school, like we were really discovering a lot of different horror franchises. Leprechaun was one of those ones where we went out to like Blockbuster Video Update and we rented like the first 4 or the first 5 and just like binged them, kind of thing. Just kept watching them and rewatching them. The second film is actually the one that I remember the most. It's not my favorite, but it's the one that I remember the most. Just in my head when I recall images, the second film pops up the most. But this first film, it does have some weird kind of tones though, where it's comical because you have the Leprechaun delivering a lot of lines like riddles and like songs and like these weird kind of dialogue that he has. It's just the way they write it, and he's got like that very Irish style to him. It's funny, but it kind of takes away from the seriousness of it sometimes, especially like the scene when Jennifer Aniston and them are trying to escape from the Leprechaun, and they're literally like throwing shoes at him because he used to be a shoemaker, so he can't making shoes and polishing shoes, so he can't help but like take his rag and like go to all the shoes, and they're like tossing the shoes out of the truck and her heels and like another and a boot, and like it's just really silly tonally stuff like that kind of bothers me. I wish it was a little more serious. And that's why I like kind of shy away from these films, is because the comedy aspect in them doesn't land as much for me as the serious stuff. I like the more serious kills. I like the serious Leprechaun, even though he's pulling some kind of jokes sometimes when he brutally kills somebody, or he has like a pot of gold like start coming in someone's like stomach, after they make wishes. Like there's stuff like that. I like those kind of kills better. But when we get into the more comical stuff about him, it's kind of like they're making fun of the Leprechaun character, and I don't really like that stuff as much. Like this is definitely one of those franchises you have to be really in to the tone of the films, because this is pretty much how they carry on, and it stays that way even when we get into Leprechaun in the Hood and Back to the Hood and all that stuff. So thanks for sticking around with me all for this chat and Radd movie review, kind of retrospective, talking about the very first Leprechaun film from 1993. Let me know in the comments section what you thought of this film. Is this a franchise you return to a lot? Like I said, it's St. Patrick's Day coming up, and like I haven't caught the other two most recent ones. I was like, why not? Let's binge the franchise, go through all of them. I'll do some reviews, and then we're going to be ranking all the Leprechaun films. So make sure you stay tuned to the channel, and don't forget to like and subscribe so you don't miss a thing. Have a safe and happy day, everyone. Peace out.